born and raised. My name is Sandragrace, one word. Sandragrace, one word, Martinez, or Martinez, as some say, Georgia. I'm like, no, it's not that, okay. So Sandragrace, one word. I'm running for general land office. It's called the GLO. I didn't know what GLO was until not too long ago. I realized, okay, I like the word Texas Land Commissioner because it's TLC and it just sounds sweeter, but men don't like to say, oh, we're for TLC, so GLO it is. So the reason I say men in psychology or how they would say something like that is because I'm a mental health care clinician. I'm not a politician. I hear that a lot, but I'm not. I literally have gone to the best schools that San Antonio had to provide for me. I wanted to stay within my own county because that's where my parents lived, and one of them has died there. So there it lies an interesting story. I was raised on Hope Street, which has become actually an interesting thing as the audacity of Hope surfaced. And I thought this is interesting because it resonates with me. I was not supposed to succeed. I was not supposed to be here before you today. I think the cards were stacked against me from the beginning. Both my parents were from Mexico and became American citizens through amnesty. And so most of my childhood, I helped my parents translate between immigration attorneys and them, or sometimes even immigration officials, Border Patrol, who have picked up my mother or my father. So as a small, I like to think that I advocated as an advocate, I started at 5 in ponytails and glasses. But it wasn't a funny thing, it was sad for me to have to speak English and Spanish and translate and tell my parents, well, they're going to take you away and you're going to go to Mexico, and here I am, this kiddo. So as I grew in this uncertain world, and I realized I didn't want to be just another statistic. I wanted to go to college. So I went to a school at UT called UTSA in San Antonio, and I obtained my bachelor's in political science, focusing primarily on constitutional law. That being said, I ended up working for a senator, thank goodness. A fellowship came up by the name of Gregory Luna Scholar. So Gregory Luna is a senator from San Antonio who passed, but he championed education. He was known for that. And it was a bipartisan support act that they shall be Hispanics for the first time ever on the Senate floor working as what they call interns, because it used to be an elitist type of opportunity. That being said, I ended up being chosen out of over 100 people applied, and I made the 12. So that was what I call a significant life event now as a therapist. Significant life events happen various times in our life. It is where we pivot. It is where we see a change in ourselves, in our family, in our community, in our people, all the way up to our planet. But take it back to that pivot for me. I learned 20 years ago how the system truly works, how legislative matters are truly promulgated and babysat within the committees in and out till it gets to the governor, and how sometimes well-intended pieces of legislature that can help people don't have health insurance, they don't have mental health insurance, or that have someone in prison and humane this particular part is a little tender for me. I was a parole officer, so at first when I was a parole officer, I was like, I am going to be Officer Martinez, and I'm going to instill the living fear in parolees, but that wasn't the case. We were setting them up to fail, and I wasn't going to partake in that system. So I didn't last very long, but I was there for a good 3 years, and then I went into Child Protective Services as an investigator, and I worked in the trenches there. And I realized that system also was there to fail the families. It wasn't to reunify, it wasn't to bring the families together. They went against mission statements, so that's so important to me. That whatever organization that we are sending money to, paying membership dues to, or whoever is the agencies that we're providing monies or appropriating monies through the Texas legislature, that they are congruent with their mission statements. Because if they're not, then it's another failed system. Oh, don't get me started with the foster care system. I've worked in residential treatment centers as well, where I believe that's where we kind of groom them to become parolees in the future. That's a whole other story. So I received my master's in marriage and family therapy, and I learned something called systems theory. In other words, only 2 universities in Texas actually provide this type of education, where you find a system or something that is that's showing symptoms of something that's not working, something that's disconcerting, either to the community or the person, and then you throw a wrench in that system. It can come in many shapes, forms. It can be a hurricane, it can be a loved one dying, it could be a therapist intervening and throwing a wrench. So I learned that, and I've been doing that for 12 years. I'm a licensed professional counselor at the state of Texas in good standing, and I'm practicing. So why am I late? Because I've been seeing clients since 8 o'clock in the morning. So I woke up, and then at 8 o'clock I saw back-to-back patients online, because thank goodness I have that privilege of working through my computer. And then only to find out that my son, who's not been sick at all since COVID, was boiling before I left. And I had one foot out the door and one foot saying, what do I do? Luckily, my husband said, I got this, and he needs to go in the shower, and I'm taking it easy, and so I was giving him directives. And so I'm a little shaken because I don't know how he's doing at this moment, but he's 14, he has autism. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Asperger's before. Very intelligent. He paints, he's an artist, and he's won several awards. He's been doodling since he was 3, this little boy. Diagnosed in the school because I couldn't afford a psychologist to catch that, and that's really a lot of reasons why a lot of folks a lot of kiddos in foster care get beat up and more risk for being abused because they're not diagnosed with these types of things. So I've learned the hard way how things happen and significant life events happen to me and my neighbor and my community. And so what we're experiencing now is a significant life event. We have the opportunity to move the vote in Espanol, mover el voto, that's what I call it. There's a song for that, and there's a dance for it right now. I just don't have it in me to dance. So I will say that as a Democrat, I ask you to see how you can continue giving that synergy to have significant life events happen throughout the state. The soul of our state, I believe, is at stake. This particular position that I'm in, you'll hear a lot about what it does, and it's a little known secret. The GLO is a known secret because there's a lot that we can do with the GLO that hasn't been done because it's been run by, well, the people that may want to use it as a launching pad into other things, but it's got a great possibility to further education, further veterans benefits, and look at our state or our position on environmental resiliency plans, which George P. Bush, I've got to say, he did actually put that together, the communities and what they call the coastal spine. There's something out there for us. Anyway, I won't bore you anymore. The fact is that I am coming into this position. I need your help because I want to change the tapestry of not only the GLO. So I want my son to see me, who was once a single mom, that I was able to persevere. I want to be able that my neighbors are able to see that even though I'm working really hard behind the screen and seeing trauma patients and whatnot, that I still come out and I'm a person and I need to breathe and I need to take care of myself. I want my city and my county and so on and so forth and party to know that I'm in this to win it. Most importantly, what I want to instill is that the tapestry of Texas can change. This is our pivot. This is our significant life event of the party, in my opinion. I believe the soul of this, oh my gosh, I have to hold back here, hold on. I believe that the soul of this party is at stake. I want to leave this earth knowing that I did everything that I could. Everything, including leaving my son in the arms of my, who was a stepdad, and to come here and spread some synergy. We're gonna be okay. God's good, I always say. And we may not have all together. We may not have it all together. But together as a party, we have it all. believe that. My other son, he's a Marine. He's about 5'4", and he went up that reefer. I thought he wouldn't. I don't know if there's any veterans or servicemen, but thank you for your service. My son, he was able to make it all the way up that reefer. Grueling for him. I thought he wasn't going to make it, but he did. So I've got my sons. I'm a mom. I'm a business owner. I also own a gallery that commemorates what is called the Nine Ladies of the Dead. My husband is Richard Michael Gallegos, and this gallery that we have, Manminster, is our pride and joy, as these 9 ladies of the dead are women that have different cultures. So we have eyes of an African American or Asian American, noses of all, and because we are all linked. If I were to thread a rope and pluck it, it would hurt. Maybe it would be heard or not heard, but it certainly would be felt. Right now, I believe that the feelings that we have about what has happened are important as a therapist. I urge you to use that energy, that anger. This is where el manejo del enojo, or what we call anger management, this is a good thing, to rise. We have to. And the best thing that we can do, in my humble opinion, is that we look at this from the lens of these executive offices, GLO, the General Land Office, the Attorney General, what else do we have? Lieutenant Governor. We need someone. We need a Democrat. We need it like we will not survive. And I hate to catastrophize, because that's the word that we use in the field I am, but it's not, it's real, it's frightening. So yeah, there is climate change, and you'll hear these buzzwords, and I just ask you to discern, because the real climate change happens there, in those executive leadership, because without that changing, nothing changes to help with climate change. And just so you know, at this time, the board members at the GLO is responsible for picking in your behalf, or someone's behalf. They're not of color. There's just one woman, and probably not a lot of women, no women of color. Just one woman and one African American man in boards that overlook prison systems, that overlook coastal resiliency plans, state boards. We're in 2022, and the tapestry remains the same. And I just ask you to help change that tapestry. You wouldn't be here on a Monday if you didn't have it in you. I just, in closing, my name again is Sandragrace Martinez. One word, Sandragrace Martinez. And I ask humbly for your help and your vote. Right now, I personally have not taken any money from special interests, and you'll see my financial reports come out. I only have $2,000, and I have a lot of people very nervous that have $500,000 that thought they had this position in the bag, because it was in some people in this structure, not this, but in the political structure, believe the power is in money. No. In this election, the power is in our people.
Exactly.
So, and we're gonna make it happen, Kelvin. We are, and I won't forget you. If y'all have any questions, please, this is the time to ask. If not, I humbly ask for your support.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what the General Land Office does, within that, what interests you the most because you picked that?
Well, at first it was, the first one that on the list was education, because I thought this is a great time to integrate mental health care resources with our kiddos, because my understanding is that the GLO only provides monies to give kids textbooks. I mean, that was the end. And the story was in the four corners of legislative mandates in the statute. However, missteps on George P. Bush actually benefit a Democrat or someone with an agenda that would actually help kiddos. Because somebody was just mentioning the border. We were at the border. I took my son, he's schooling him at homeschool or virtual academy. And he wanted to see it for himself, so we went and he touched it. That was one of the saddest, but it was one of the saddest moments of my life to see my son touch that one and have to explain to him the significance it is in Texas history and U.S. history. In education, I would like for kiddos, I want them to be successful and in grades and in math and in the arithmetic and writing and all this great stuff, but if they don't have the mental health fortitude to pass a test because they suffer with depression, or they suffer with post-traumatic stress syndrome, or because they have been victimized or abused, or they've seen domestic violence, or they've seen violence in general, or have been victims of a climate change, not coincidence, but as a result of climate change, they've been victimized, or displaced, or homeless. I cannot in good faith say, I want these kiddos to take these tests and to pass these tests, knowing fully well the human mind can only take so much. And if we don't provide the resources, man, for them to be mentally strong here, we're not preparing them to launch as adults and be successful in higher ed. So our opportunity is to provide those resources and work collaboratively with nonprofits and provide resources in their language. And so that is what took me to that place. So this is where I need to focus to the education. What gave me the strength to say this? When George P. Bush misstepped in December and decided that he was going to give our land, the land that the GLO has, to build some of that fence or the wall, whatever we want to get to it. I thought, thank you. First of all, it's a fence, and this is a PR thing, and I know you're running for, I get it, for Paxton, I get it. And he's not even standing with the parties. I get that whole shebang thing they did. But I'm like, as horrible and upset as I was that day, I'm like, you know what he just did? He just made these areas that now that the GLO can work on, because if he can donate that land so that he can say that it's now going to benefit border security, which in turn helps us safeguard our education system for kids. I mean, he threaded that. That was a weird way, but it was allowed. Okay, then I can use same lands to put domestic violence survivors, women that have been raped when they're crossing borders and whatnot. We can do that now. Thank you, George P. Bush, for lowering the bar, or maybe raising it. I don't know at this point. But that is what my hope is, that I'm allowed to go in there and try to change and follow the course of the George P. missteps, but in a way that benefits the collab here, what we know to be, because you guys are Democrats, you guys are familia, so you understand where I'm coming from. The time to act is now, and I appreciate that question. So, and education, because I want mental health care threaded in there, no doubt.
Okay, I have another question. Okay, down here in the hurricanes and everything, when they hit our areas and all that, the general land office has a lot to do with us getting the federal funding for this area. And so that's another important thing for us, that live here with the counties that touch the water and that, and to get help for all these people down here and all that federal money that the general land office gets that we never see, down here to help the people.
Right. They're still even, to me, it's perplexing. It's perplexing because it's almost like if we continue to vote Republican and have Republicans in place of leadership, that we're enabling this madness.
Mm-hmm.
It has got to stop. Because we're still reeling from Ike. There's some communities that are we a priority, or are we just a vote? Are we pandering and giving everybody these buzzwords? Well, I'm not full of those buzzwords. I believe that coastline victims of being displaced, feeling fronts of businesses falling apart, or, and my belief system is we need to not only provide them with what I call Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is food, healthy food, which includes medication. People forget that part. Water, not just any water, clean water, as well as shelter, not just any shelter, safe shelter. Because I can go on the bridge and call it a shelter, but it's not safe for me or my son. We need to put the pressure on the government to act according to people's needs, not their political needs. It has to stop. And so, I'm glad you bring that up, because I'm still asking my clients if they've been disaster victims, and some of them still are talking about Harvey, some are still talking, and so I thought, what has happened? They were displaced from, and they come to San Antonio, we're hospitable, we put them in our hotels, and sometimes they don't go back because there's nothing to go back to.
Right.
It's a damn shame. Damn shame Texas has done. But it's gonna change. It's gonna change. I know, the climate change, but it's gotta start with these executive positions and getting some Democrats in there for sure, electing, I believe wholeheartedly it's gonna happen. And I'm a therapist, so I don't just speak haphazardly. I believe that we are going to cause a ruckus. This general land office has already caused a ruckus. Why? Because they didn't know how I was gonna run. I got there at 4:30 in Austin, paid $3,750, which a major part of that money was for Christmas gifts. But I did it, and all hell broke loose. I wasn't supposed to. But I'm still standing. So I figured if I can take on, immigration at 5 and pigtails and glasses, I can take on, special interest groups and the likes. So I think I'm good. That's how I was raised. Any other questions or concerns about this particular seat? Well, I just want, if I can close, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thank you again for giving me the opportunity to say what I had to say. I just want you to remember me by saying that we may not have it all together, but together we do have it all. And that we are fighting for the soul. We're really, as Democrats, fighting for the soul of the state. And I stand with you. I stand with you. I stand with veterans. I stand for my kiddos, and I say kiddos, say my kiddos, but I work with little ones. And of course, climate change, but that's not my buzzword, because people are saying that to catch your attention. But I also mean it, the dual meaning is, let's change the climate of our politics in Texas. Because if we start there, and the nation sees that we've turned blue, it can cause a tidal wave across our nation. And that is what my hope is. And we can do it. I know that we can. So, I ask again humbly for your vote. Sorry that I'm late, but again, I made it one piece. So, with my wobbly attire, I don't know what's going on. It's scary, it's so wobbly, but it has air, so I don't know what's wrong with it. I may call somebody to help me if I'm stuck out 20 miles out, maybe, I don't know. I see y'all are hospitable. So if any questions, I do have a website, thank God it's free. And it's sandragracefortexans.com. That's Sandragrace, one word, for the number, Texans.com. Again, thank you for your time on this beautiful Monday, and be careful, all of you. My prayers and hopes are for the best. That the freeze is coming. It's coming. It's okay. It's okay.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Oh, and I'm like, wait a minute. I just saw some clients yesterday. That means it's Tuesday. So tomorrow at 6 p.m., if I'm not mistaken, that's supposed to hit San Antonio. And I'm thinking to myself, the best thing that could happen, but the worst thing that can happen is for us to be in the same situation that we were last time. But I just find that you guys are deserving of good things. And just to end it here, there is nothing that you have gone through that will ever be one of those ultimate, this has significantly changed my life and I'm not ever going to get up, or I'm not ever going to be resilient enough. As a therapist, I believe everyone can teach one. I believe everyone is always enough. You always have been and always will be, no matter what has been thrown your way. So whatever happens with these climates going down, be there for one another. God doesn't give us certainty for another minute, another hour, but if we're here, let's make the most of it and lift each other up. Because at the end of the day, we only have each other, have our family. And that's why it was kind of hard to leave my son, but I found it significant enough to come here